It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
Welcome to EdTech Mondays Nigeria, a platform that facilitates critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning. I am Chinyelu Akpa, your host, and it is great to be here again today. This month, we have been discussing technology for accessible and inclusive education, digging into how tech can better support inclusive and accessible education for all learners, especially for those often excluded from mainstream systems due to disability, location, income, or cultural barriers. On this week's episode, we'll be spotlighting how socio-economic variables such as income, gender roles, and digital exposure affect access to learning. At the end of this episode, you will be left with the conviction that inclusion is not a byproduct. It must be intentional. And our guests on the show will do justice to it. On the show this week, we have two amazing female founders who are building inclusive platforms for women, youth, and low-income families. Our first guest is Dr. Ademisola Adio Adekpoju. She is an educator, social entrepreneur, and global opportunities expert, dedicated to youth and women's empowerment through skills acquisition and the SDGs. She's the founder of iTrain Africa, that is a MasterCard Foundation EdTech Fellow startup, an EdTech social enterprise equipping African youths with knowledge, skills to shape the future. With 14 plus years of experience in education, entrepreneurship, and management, she also holds a mini MBA from IFC and has led the Global Mentorship Conference, reaching over 2 million people across 53 countries. Join me as I welcome Dr. Ademisola Adio Adekpoju.
Good morning, Gina. Thank you for having me on this show.
Great. And our second guest, who is also a female founder, is Shola Adeshakin. She's a highly respected wealth coach and a chartered accountant with over 2 decades of transformative impact in the finance industry. As the visionary founder of Smart Stewards Finance Advisory Limited and Smart Stewards Advisory LLC, that is also a MasterCard Foundation EdTech Fellow, she has revolutionized the financial well-being of countless individuals and businesses across 40 countries. Her methodical approach to maintain, manage, multiply money principles has elevated many from financial stress to prosperity and from mediocrity to exceptional achievement. Join me to welcome Shola Adeshakin.
Hello. Nice to be here.
So this episode is probably sponsored by women. So let's jump right in. I'm particularly excited just because you're women. And when, we speak inclusion in EdTech or whatever field, really, there's always, that tethering towards gender and inclusion as it affects women. So it's really informating and exciting to see women who have built EdTech businesses as you have and are on the forefront of that inclusion conversation, but now taking it beyond just the gender roles and how it affects inclusion, but even to other bits that people would not typically, think of or be aware of. So I'll ask this first question, and it goes to the both of you. I'll start with you, Dr. Ademisola. What inspired your work in EdTech? And how does your platform serve marginalized learners, especially girls and women and marginalized families?
Thank you. So the first part of the question, how did I start? I always say I started from my own pain. I was in a PhD program and I had to go to the UK to do a part of that PhD program. And I got there and I realized, chemistry, check. After all, I even went on a scholarship, this thing. So academically, I was radiant. Then I got there and I realized I didn't have the skills to actually showcase the job. So I could do all the laboratory, the technical part, But I could not do the showcase, the presentations and all that. It had to do with the skills that no one was talking about that was important for work. And I think that was the first root shock. And I came back and I said I was going to build something I could not find, which is a workplace skills, because even Google didn't have it. Google would just tell you soft skills here, leadership there. And I'm like, this does not translate to actually doing work. And I said, let's build this. And I think that was the second root shock, because when you're building a business, you can't build it alone. I couldn't find talents to build what I couldn't find. So I had to say, okay, here's what's going to happen. After all, I wanted to build a curriculum that we could then use to train the workforce, especially women. And I had to start from the very scratch. And I think one of my first testers was a lady. She had then come to me to work in my fashion business. She had dropped out of secondary school. And I remember her coming to my shop to say, oh, I wanted to do this work. I employed her for the sales role of this thing. But then, I was trying to find staff. But like I said, I couldn't find staff. So I said, Aisha, come. Let me train you into this. They said, ma, I cannot learn it. I said, how do you mean? He said, I did not finish secondary school. I said, but these skills, you are literate. GSS3 is literacy. Let's train you on the other workplace skills. People to help me power this business. And that's how Aisha joined me. Aisha has been with me now for 4 years, and she's practically like heading, or will I say controlling, the people that have MSEs. So for me, every time I look at her, like she recently even just put, she's our first staff going on maternity leave, right? Every time I look at her, I'm like, say Aisha, till now, like she's doing the work, but she's not like, no one, like she, even her confidence has, increased. There's nothing like I did not finish school, because she's doing the work and she's getting paid for doing the job. So for us, when I look at people like Aisha, who are originally or like normally marginalized, so we are building a curriculum that the only thing I require of you is literacy. Can you hear me? Can you speak to me? The other skills does not require English. It requires for you to understand me. And we found out that 70% of the people that have gone through our academy are actually women, still at 2 months, women on career break. And because it's remote, it's like a remote first term learning, it's online, they can always access it from wherever they are.
Because I do feel, as said, hers was from a personal pain point, and seeing that even though she was a scholar, there was still a limitation, that she figured she had to build for. So what is your story? How did you decide to build what you have now?
Similar to what Dr. Aderisola said, my business and my journey into teaching financial literacy started from my mess. So my mess became my message. I was that very brilliant chartered accountant who left school at 20, qualified at 22, got good jobs, started to navigate my, career journey, but was always broke. I would earn a salary as far back as 17, 18 years ago, about $500,000 per month.
Wow.
And then 2-3 days after salaries were paid, I didn't know where my money was going. And then I will go out in church for prayers because I felt I had spiritual problems. And, so that I took some really, really funny decisions, like leaving a job that was paying me well because I thought my resume was solid enough to get me another job. And just things that messed up my entire finances. And then after a while, I sorted things out and settled it within myself that I needed to help people shorten their learning curve with regards to the things I'd learned on the journey. So I started to teach financial literacy. Now for me, if as a chartered accountant, supposedly educated person, numbers person, I couldn't put my finances in order. And what happens with people who did not finish school? But the irony of it is that education does not necessarily confer financial literacy. I then realized that those business women who did not finish primary school were even better, were even more knowledgeable, but they just had a bit of structure. So just a combination of many things. And then I started to teach financial literacy, started to teach entrepreneurship for women, for young girls. Now, these days, and just like in the past, you would see that women are more willing to learn. Call a conference, you have women, right? Their guys, their husbands say, no, you go. And more women showed interest in financial literacy. Young girls And as we started to teach these people, these women, about financial literacy, about entrepreneurship, we started to also encourage them to bring their children, their young girls. And then we started to teach them financial literacy as well. In the last few years, we have reached quite a wide range of women, old women, young women, marginalized. And so there's that thing of those who are doing businesses who understand financial literacy. Then there's the other set of people who are very poor, who don't have skills to make money, and who don't have financial literacy. So our work is a mix. We are dealing with professionals who lack financial literacy. We are dealing with non-professionals, non-educated people who understand financial literacy, and then the other parties, people who do not have professional skills and who do not have financial literacy.
Great.
But it's been such a journey. Great interest.
So what I have seen or heard from both of you is that you have identified a group of people who, when we are designing learning programs, are easily overlooked. And you have spoken about women who would typically not bring themselves forward, to take part in trainings or programs, even physically. How much more now, when there's a technology component to it. So I think the first question would be, before I go into my next main question, would be, has technology made it more difficult for women to access learning? So from what you do at iTrain, and if you can just cast your mind back to the enrollment, do you get more women, or would you have more women giving you 1,000 reasons why they cannot join your cohort of trainings? And the same thing to you too, Shola. Does it come up?
It does come up. And there's a particular woman that enrolled like 2 batches or 3 batches ago. And her husband kept chatting us to say, my wife can't learn. As in, it was so shocking because it was more like, it just felt that maybe she didn't have the mental capacity or the digital literacy to even enroll in the program.
Okay.
And we just kept, the woman was hustling to pay this money, and we had subsidized the program by 90% for those category of people. And it was not a question of the mindset, because it's like society has trained women or girls to feel like, why you don't have to go that far, because the woman had children, she was housewife and all that stuff, and she wanted to change her life. And I realized that for those group of women, we had to then design like we'll say, we don't render support on WhatsApp, but nothing is rigid at iTrain Africa. I said, we need to meet the learner where they are. So this woman has never, the only maybe digital thing she has ever interacted with is WhatsApp. And she said, how will I even, no email doing geos, man? How do you use someone that doesn't even know, have an email? So we had to do screen recording from the very beginning, because it was, for us, it was more like this husband was bent on, she can't.
Was proving a point that she cannot do it. So I think what you have done now, and I'll come back to you, Shola, is you have hit the nail, even before I ask the question, that there is a need for us to be very I remember when I said in my introductory statement that it's not just lip service. When we think about inclusion, it is intentional. And what you have just said, really just even without me going further into my question, is when we are designing EdTech programs or technology for inclusion accessibility for programs like you, and there's a need to understand the people that you are working with and see how your technology can meet them where they are. So if you know that you're working with women who do not even have that confidence to navigate these really complex platforms, what can you do with WhatsApp, right? So let me come to you, Shola. Do you think that this also applies when you're trying to support women with financial literacy programs online?
Right.
Because I'm really going that technology route. Do you think it's something that they want to do or they are open to it?
I love it. In our own experience, on one hand, there's the willingness. Actually, for you to say, oh, come and learn about financial literacy, or come and interact with tools and courses and videos, they're happy. But on the other hand, there are those obstacles. No device, no data, no support, and all of those things. So what we do from time to time is, WhatsApp is accessible. if you really want to get at these people, interact with them with things and through mediums that they're comfortable with. But in addition to that, what we do is we then organize physical programs from time to time. And then those courses, depending on the kind of people we are trying to reach, they are the set of people that have access. They can join Zoom meetings, they can go on that learning platform and do all of those courses. But those the third set that I described earlier on, who are not technically savvy, who are not educated.
So much.
So we bring them together from time to time. And then we do videos, we do all of those things. And then we break them into tiny bits and then share on WhatsApp. Another thing we are trying to do is we are translating our courses into other languages. Apart from English. So we're doing Yoruba, we're doing Hausa.
And all of this is available to them in bite size.
Oh, absolutely.
On WhatsApp that everybody is on.
And then for the other set of people, of course, you log in online. You can access those things.
Great. So we've established now that in the design of these programs, EdTech programs, EdTech training, EdTech courses, you need to understand the personas that would apply or that would use your product and will use your solutions, and ensure that you're designing to suit them. You can't design from the best fits and hope that everybody's, gets up to that level, right? So my next question, and it is something also we've established what the gender limitation is, right? Let's talk about finance. For what you do at iTrain, are we taking enough consideration when designing EdTech programs that are actually financially accessible to young people? We'll see people say, oh, I have an EdTech program, I have an EdTech solution. You can learn, maybe graphics design, you can learn project management. And when I ask you the cost, you're telling me it is 500,000 naira. And you're hoping that you can get 1 million Nigerians out of unemployment and get them to be. So do we also think about the financial implications when it comes to this EdTech thing?
Okay, so for me, I think one of the first things we did when we were doing the testing and everything, we tested people that could afford our program as at then 300,000. By the time it was time to do continental-wide launch, we are a social enterprise, right, technically. We took the price down by like 90% and said, come and pay 37,625. But here is the funny thing. There are people that can't still afford that that's $30. That can't still afford it. We introduce pay small, like pay instrumentally, pay twice. Do you know that kind of thing? And there are people that will still not be able to afford it. So for me, I think what we've then done is there are people that have goodwill and there are people that, that want it, they have interest. So one of the things we are doing at iFabrica is let me find who my consumer is and let me find who my customer is. So for the category of people that no matter what you do, they just can't afford it. We've seen widows come to us to say, I need to be able to feed my children. I had a particular lady come to me and, our story is just so messy. And we said, here's what's going to happen. We have subsidized it so much that you can't still afford it. So why don't we find people who are interested in empowering people? They pay us for you and you get on the program. Because the only thing these people are asking us is, are you sure? Like we need to do the vetting of they would learn and they will give us the money. And that is where we are right now. In addition to that, especially because we are training youth, meaning who are the people that need workplace skills the most? Because we said 1 in 2 Nigerian graduates are not employable. Not that there are no jobs, they are not employable. They don't lack the skills for work. So one of the things we are introducing like right now is let's do subscription. Meaning if my program is, let's say 100,000, first for every student, you have an ID card of a school, you just recently graduated, maybe 2 years. If you still have a school ID card, put it into the platform, you get half the current price of the program. And aside that, let's now do subscription. Like if you can do $10 per month, if you have 6 modules on the program, you can do $10 across 6 months. Be doing $10. $10 gets 1 module. $10,000 naira gets 1 module. Gets another 10,000 naira, get another module. So you are done with all the workplace skills module. And maybe if a student decides to say, okay, I'm in 400 level, and this is my plan, 10,000 naira investment for the next year. So that means if they do 6 months, by the time they are done with their final year, they are ready for the workplace. The skills and the education is sorted.
It's ready.
So that we are then looking for ways to meet our learners or the different category of people we serve where they are.
Great, Shona.
So we have, like already explained, different categories of people that we serve. I mean, there are those people who are the users and the payers. So they use and able to afford and pay. But there are those who are the users but are not necessarily the payers. For example, the children that we serve are the consumers, but they are not the payers. So in that case, their parents are the ones who sponsor such programs. At Smart Stewards, we place a lot of emphasis on leverage. And sometimes we work with private institutions to say, you know what, this is what we're doing. We need you to support this number of people to get on this program. And we have had a lot of success in doing this. We have obtained grants. I remember one of the grants that we obtained about 2 years ago to train 200 uneducated women. We trained them on vocational, entrepreneurial, and tech skills, which had financial literacy, business literacy, all of those things. Now, 200 for 2 intensive hands-on practical classes. They were coming every day, and then 6 months of mentoring and support. Now, it was one of the consulates that gave us the money to execute. So for me, whether they're payers, whether they're the users, just get the work done. As long as there's the willingness. And another thing I should quickly chip in is that it's not enough to say, oh, I want to train them. I think continual support will help them also achieve. Some people, there's that tendency of, I didn't pay for it. They forced me to come. Did I even? But when you show them what they're able to get from it, and then you keep them in to say, oh, this is a support system. We've had success stories. I remember one person that went through catering and all of the entrepreneurial classes. By the next time I saw her, she had obtained a job as a catering head of an hotel in Oshobo. That was brilliant.
Great.
So for me, leverage and continual support.
So from both of your conversations now, one thing stands out, and it stands out very clear. There is a need for EdTech organizations, founders like you, to figure out who your customer is and who the consumer is. So it's a question of who needs to get this training, who needs to use your solution, and also who can support people who might not be able to use the solution. And there's also the conversation about, figuring out different subscription rates. And it's very instructive for me because what you typically find is a standard subscription rate for a solution. So if we are building EdTech solutions that have inclusion and accessibility at heart, it cannot just be a one-size-fits-all approach, right? So there has to be the point where you're saying, if you're a student, this is what a student will pay. If you're a recent graduate, this is what a recent graduate will pay. If you're a stay-at-home mom, this is what you can pay. If you're a, whatever type of persona you want to design that can use a solution, you're thinking about them and figuring out how money would not be a barrier to them, maybe personally, what they can do, and also looking for people who can support. So that's the role of technology. That's what technology can do, because you have it, you're able to make it available to them, and they can learn at the end of the day. So as we wrap up this conversation, I'd like to now find out, do you think there's anything that policy can do for you? So what are policy shifts, or are there any policy shifts that you think can boost inclusive digital skills and employability for women and youth?
The first thing we must think about in terms of policy is whoever, I don't like to say just government, because again, there are quite a number of people in that ecosystem as in funders and everything like that. I would say if they can incentivize people like us, I've gone ahead to do 3 years of testing on a curriculum, 9 demographic, including stay-at-home moms, women on career break, and youth, graduates and undergraduates. They can say, okay, you don't have to start from scratch, because again, you don't have the 3 years. There's already the menace of unemployability. People are already working on it. I've gone ahead to do the 3 years. Let's do the work. Just come and say, okay, this is what we then have. Can we incentivize? Because in the actual sense of it, it is not, there was a joke we had at the EdTech this day. I said, it's not one-day training. One-day training will not lead to employability. Let's be honest with ourselves. So it is finding EdTech solutions, as in the private people already doing the work, who have data to say they are doing the work and they have shown the result to say, let's give you the money, implement this in our schools or in the place where we find the ideal audience. That's number one thing. Let's government just partner with private sector. The number two thing I think we can also do with that policy shifts would be that, for me, we need to actually put it in the curriculum of schools. We have 500 to 600,000 graduates in a year in Nigeria. There's this course they now put entrepreneurship, all those GSTs and everything like that. Can we just at least amend that curriculum a bit to say, okay, there is workplace fundamental skills as a course. Let's incorporate it. That policy would shift everything for youth. And thirdly, I think a mindset shift. Now, why do I say that? I'm coming from the academic sector. I taught at the university for 2 years, and in class, as in, where you're having meetings with all your the school meetings, and you're talking about technology, in the classroom, how students are currently using their device to do other things during your class. And I remember in one of those meetings, I said to my fellow lecturers, and I said, can we incorporate technology into their learning? Meaning, we had Mentimeter the other day. I want them to be engaged. You want to use your phone in my class, you will use it to my advantage. I will give you things, Kahoot, something, you would use it in my distance. So the mindset shifts even for educators and funders that technology is not necessarily a bad thing. Their phone is not the issue. But we have created systems where we're still using whiteboard, whereas somebody is at the back of your class pressing phone. I will give you work that you do in the phone in my class. So the mindset shifts around the people at the top, the committees and the funders and everything. We need to shift our mind from technology is the thing that is not making them pass to letting technology be an enabler of learning in the classroom.
Great. Thank you, Angela.
Policy has to be inclusive, not just the government. It has to be an entire ecosystem with the private sector of people who can fund some of these initiatives, and people who can not just fund but provide the tools and the resources needed. I think we should look at which are things we already discussed. What are some of the things that are obstacles, which I already said earlier on? No device, no data. So, for example, you go abroad, Wi-Fi is readily available at airports.
Mm-hmm.
So how come we can't have such broadband and digital infrastructure here in Nigeria, where at the very basic level, in places, communities saying, we have Wi-Fi? Airports, where some of these things can happen, public centers especially. So I think the government should support with digital infrastructure, broadband.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I said private sector and the government. For example, a telecommunications company can say, you know what, we're subsidizing data access for some of these things, right? For EdTech solutions. Then we can have grants also specifically tailored for maybe women, marginalized women, underprivileged women. It's a combination of many things, but I like what she said about mindset. I think a lot of emphasis has to be placed on education, on financial literacy, on empowerment, on entrepreneurship, and all of those things. A long way to go, but one day at a time. The private sector is doing a lot by constantly showcasing these things to the government and the key, policymakers. I hope we help them realize the advantages and the benefits of having these things in place, because we want a better Nigeria. These are the things that will contribute to a better Nigeria.
Thank you so much to our two amazing female founders who have joined us to do justice to this conversation. For me, the biggest takeaway has been that inclusion is very intentional. If you're an EdTech founder who has a solution, there are different other ways that you can have inclusion and accessibility play out in your solution. And if you're someone who can support, if you're thinking about, how do I make a difference? How about you begin to look for these people who have the solutions? It's not possible that we build schools in every streets, every local government. We can't keep building schools. So there's technology to ensure that, people have access to learnings that they typically won't get within the four walls of the classroom. So let's figure out how we can get win-win models that would work for these founders who are putting in so much time and so much energy to get trainings and learnings available to people, and also make it available to the people who need to use them at the end of the day. It's been a really engaging conversation thinking about inclusion and accessibility from the lens of women and income. I hope you have learned something. You are amazing guests. I'd love to hear from you. Let us know, what are the limitations you have as a woman or as a youth, or just based on income, to accessing EdTech solutions? What are the limitations you have as a woman, as a youth, or anyone who is earning income to accessing EdTech solutions? I'd love to hear from you. Send us an SMS or a WhatsApp message to our WhatsApp lines 0703 1650809 or 0706 402 0742. We would love to hear from you. Remember, we also have a very active Telegram and WhatsApp community. It's EdTech Mondays Nigeria. You can join the conversation there to send us your feedback, send us your comments. We would love to hear from you. And if you know anyone who has missed out on this week's conversation, do not worry. Send them the link to watch us on YouTube at CC Hub Africa, or to listen at EdTech Mondays Nigeria on Spotify. Until I come your way, same time, same station, I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa. Keep using technology to push the boundaries on education. It's bye for now.
It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.